Hi there, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm looking at the latest H-60 Black Hawk offering in 1/48 scale from ICM. This is the MH-60L Special Operations helicopter as used by US forces during Operation Gothic Serpent in Mogadishu in Somalia in 1993. One of the helicopters was shot down and the rescue of the crew was portrayed in the movie Black Hawk Down. Now, if you like the video, please remember, give it the old Imperial thumbs up, hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. It's free and a great way to show your support. So let's make a start then with a look at the box the kit comes in. So here we have the rather large box of the MH-60L helicopter, the Black Hawk. In the Black Hawk Down version, which is for the Operation Gothic Serpent in Mogadishu in Somalia. One of the helicopters got shot down by an RPG-7 hit to the tail, I believe, and the story of rescuing the crew was the basis of the movie Black Hawk Down, from what I understand. Anyway, so you have the Black Hawk here hovering over a rather wrecked urban situation here. The product code is 48363, and as it says here, it's in 1/48 scale as usual. Really nice box artwork from ICM. On the long side here, we have a little information panel. You can make with 3 different versions. Color schemes, it's black. 6 helicopter sets of markings. Anyway, the important thing is 414 millimeters long, 111 millimeters height, 310 parts, not all of which you will necessarily need for the making of this kit. On the other long side are the drawings of the 6 schemes, Super 61, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 8, with their numbers painted on the windows, apart from 63, Green Reaper here. As you can see, essentially they're black. But yeah, special ops helicopter, what do you expect, I guess. Anyway, let's see what we get inside the box for our money. We take the glossy top cover off. It's a folded top cover, single piece in nice glossy print. And that leaves us with the traditional interior box. Double skinned corrugated card. This is really, really sturdy, really nice thing that ICM do. Inside here we will find instruction sheet with some decals as well, and then we'll find a bag with lots and lots of plastic parts. There's a separate bag in there for the transparent parts, but all the frames are in here. And then at the end there's an advert for ICM's water-based acrylic paints. I use these quite a lot now. I really, really like them. So let's have a look at all these different bits and pieces in a bit more detail. Frame A, as you can see, basically holds the exterior skin of the fuselage, 2 halves of the fuselage and the base unit, and here is the tail plane. That's frame A. Frame B contains things like the underside of the nose, the doors, the floor of the cabin and the cockpit. This is the overhead, with overhead controls here, sit up here. The nose parts, engine parts, external parts of the engine obviously. The tail rotor here. So quite a lot of like the detail, interior bits and pieces of detail. Frame C, they've got things like engine exhausts, seating, wheels, undercarriage, refueling boom here, the instrument panel and the center console for the instrument on the lower center console, the rotor hub here, and some other bits and pieces. You get 2 frames D, they're identical. These, I believe, are seat supports for the seats, some seat backs here, and then bits and pieces of aerials, the details for the rear rotor hub. Just lots of detail pieces in here. Again, you get 2 copies of frame E for Echo. So this is, here we have a minigun here. We have more seat components, undercarriage components, hooks and tie downs and things like that. The rear undercarriage, rear wheel, leg, bits and pieces like that. Again, lots more detailed parts. This is frame K for kilo. Slightly different nose on this MH-60L, and a couple of other parts that are specific to this precise version of the Black Hawk. Then there's frame L. This is essentially an interior fuel tank that some of the Black Hawks carried, some jerry cans here as well. So if you want to make this as one of the fuel carriers, there's the fuel tanks and the outlet pipes and so on. You get 4 of these frames. They're called frame F. As you can see, it's not much of a frame. It's just a component with a feeder. But anyway, it's called frame F. There are 4 of them, and these, of course, are the main rotor blades. Then finally we have frame G for golf, and these are all the transparent parts, the cockpit windows and the door windows at the back of the helicopter, and some light covers and things like that. In terms of the moulding, looking at the pieces in close-up, you can see raised rivets everywhere, which is what the helicopter has. They're raised. And the panel lines, some of the panel lines are quite thick and chunky, and yet underneath, for example, they're a little bit more refined. I guess it depends on the fit of the panel in real life, because they will have looked into this, I'm certain of it. The plastic looks nicely moulded. There's no flash anywhere that I can see, even on some of these sort of distant, quite critical parts. There's no flash on these edges at all. Just there's like a little, it's not a flash, but it's like a hint of a mould join. I think that's really the only thing you notice from time to time on ICM kits, are mould lines. But they've chosen where the moulds fit together very well, I think. So you're not going to notice them that much anyway. But on the tail, these are all very, very nicely done. I mean, if you're going to do these in black, you can, darken up even in a very dark grey, darken up the panel lines and then give them a wash with a mid-grey or something, and they will look really good, I think. Beautifully moulded, however. Beautifully moulded. Let's have a look on the back sides here. The only thing really that you do have to be aware of is that these are surface injected, end injections. They're not undercut in any way. On some kits, the injection gate goes sort of underneath around the back, so you can just cut that off and then nip sideways and it's cleaned up. It's not quite the same here. You do have to cut there and then clean this part of the piece up, but it's not the end of the world, it's just a little bit more work to do. But they look lovely. They look really, really nice, really, really sharp, and really, really crisp and clean, and very well moulded indeed. So here's that instrument panel. Do you know what? I might dry brush most of this and then just add in the colour into the CRTs or the LCD panels. Rather, there we go. These might just drop in some green into these, and the rest paint in some marks, and then dry brush most of this. I don't think we need I don't think the decals will add too much to it. Obviously, you can get an aftermarket set that look amazing as well. The rotor hubs are here. They look pretty good. Yeah, they look quite intricate. Maybe just a little soft. Perhaps just a tiny bit soft. I don't know. Maybe I'm being really, really critical. I don't know. These plates here, that looks really nicely moulded. The wheels, the wheel nuts and all that, very good, very crisp. Yeah, beautifully moulded. Plenty of detail in there and plenty of sharp detail. Again, no flash anywhere to be seen. Again, the smaller parts here, the minigun, for example, looks cool, looks well moulded. Even the smallest parts have plenty of detail, plenty of sharpness to them. The smallest tie downs and all that are all very crisp, absolutely no mould lines or flash anywhere on those. And here we have the decal sheet. As you can see, it's fairly sparse because these are Special Forces helicopters, so they don't have an awful lot of information on them, or so you'd think. Here we have obviously the cockpit instruments and things like that. These go on the rotor blades, danger keep away. You would think that would be brighter, but you know, they show up against black, and as I say, Special Forces. If you're going to let people anywhere near your Special Forces helicopters, they're going to know keep away from the rear rotor disc, for example. Information about the actual helicopters, you know, manufacturers' numbers and so on. And then stencils here, US Army, The numbers for the different helicopters that were painted onto the windows, their official serial numbers, and then of course their names that the crew gave them as well. Have a really close-up look at these decals. Here's a 0.5mm pencil lead for comparison. You can see the decals are very, very finely printed. There's like a little greenish glow to the screens, which is always nice. Detail. Obviously they're not switched on, otherwise they would have all sorts of symbols on the screens themselves. All these a lot of this switch gear is going to be dry brushed. I'm not going to use decals for a lot of it. Let's see if we can focus well on that, and you can see the text is pretty sharp actually. See if we can get any closer on that. Yeah, that's about as close as I can get onto these onto this writing. That looks pretty sharp. These are the blade serial numbers and various bits and pieces around. All very nice, all very good. Of course, a lot of these logos are in pale colours because it's going on a black aeroplane, or a black helicopter I should say. So Thunderstruck. The yellow, as usual, the yellow looks a bit slightly washed out, and that's because I think they're using 4-colour print on here. They're not using individual screen colour spot colours, which is what someone like say Cartograph will do, but then Cartograph are very, very, very expensive to make. And these are pretty good. I think on black they'll look quite sharp and quite rich, and they'll look okay. They'll look pretty good. On this pale blue they don't look quite so good. But yeah, it looks alright to me. They're sharp enough. Anyway, they're crisp enough. So we'll see what it make up like eventually. But you know what? A lot of these, I do wonder how much of this you'll actually see, because it's very, very, very dark green on black, essentially. So how much of these decals you'll actually see is a relative moot point, I think. But you know what? For 1/48, they're looking good anyway. And then the instruction booklet is very, very much the norm for ICM these days. A colour reprise of the box art here. A paragraph about the whole Operation Gothic Serpent event and Black Hawk Down and so on and so forth, in English and in Ukrainian. Technical specifications for the helicopter, again English and Ukrainian. The colour callouts, the paint callouts here, all in ICM's own paint scheme, and you can get those translated into other paint manufacturer codes on the ICM website. A brief translation of the various icons used, and a QR code link to their YouTube channel here. Inside we start with the frame layouts. The bits that are in red are bits you're not going to be using for this particular build at all. There are several options of different things anyway. And then we get to the actual construction here. The ICM instructions these days are pretty easy to follow, I'd say. They're relatively well drawn, pretty much straightforward things to follow as well. This one's got things like the optional fuel tank here for one of the variants. Lots of seating. The seating is weird in this kit, and it goes on the roof first, then you turn it upside down and fit it onto the floor, which I'm not entirely convinced by. I have to say I'm not entirely convinced by that. But anyway, once you've done that, you build up the shell of the interior of the cabin. The fuselage goes around the outside of it. Drill a load of holes if you want all these different bits and pieces of avionics and the like to go on. As I say, it's all pretty straightforward. I have to say, it's all pretty straightforward. It's just that thing of the seats going on the roof before they go on the floor. That's a little weird. But oddly, you know, there's so many of these bits are tiny little bits and pieces of detail. Lots and lots and lots of detail. The minigun here for fitting by the cabin sides on each side, just in front of the doors. Yeah. These are, I don't know what these aerials are, but they tell you where to drill holes. It's a pity they weren't pre-drilled for you, or at least pre-marked for you, but am I going to do this 6.2 millimeters for apart? No, they're going to be about 6, you know, and make it up from there. Rotor hub assembly, rotor disc, and that's pretty much it. Here are the windows. There is a template for all of the transparent parts should you wish to use one to make masks for here. Obviously there are aftermarket masks as well. And then the colour schemes, such as they are, essentially black, as I said before, or very, very dark grey. Some people use a really dark grey with black highliner for the panel lines. So you have panel lines that stand out a little bit because like black, sort of pre-shading sort of thing, but using a really dark grey, or you can just go straight for black, and they all look the same. They're just different actual decals for the different numbers in the windows, for example, but they all look pretty much the same. And that is the instruction sheet. There it is, quite the beast, and something you can really get your teeth into. I'm conflicted between building this one or the earlier release of the UH-60A from the Ukrainian Defence Intelligence Service, which I think's got really nice colours. Whichever it is, I'm sure it'll be a delight. Now, if you've enjoyed the video, please remember, give it the old Imperial thumbs up, hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. All things the YouTube algorithm loves. Thanks so much for watching today, and goodbye.